China's government has reportedly ordered its domestic airlines to stop accepting deliveries of Boeing jets and to halt purchases of aircraft parts from the U.S.
Overnight machinists at Boeing here in St. Louis are operating without a contract agreement.
Workers have voted down a recent offer, and the current agreement expired at midnight.
Washington woke up to headlines that sent a ripple through boardrooms and factory floors across the country. Canadian aerospace firms had landed multi-billion-dollar contracts with Boeing on American ground, and the news hit like a sudden shift in the weather. Executives scrambled, competitors stared in disbelief, and workers from Seattle to Wichita started asking what this could mean for their jobs and their futures. This outcome did not arrive out of thin air. Behind the scenes, Canadian companies methodically built relationships, sharpened their strategy, and waited for the right opening, while many in the United States looked the other way. Now the shock is spreading through supply chains that keep the aerospace industry alive, raising fears of financial pressure and possible cutbacks. How did Canadian players pull off such a decisive win? Who missed the warning signs? And what does this moment reveal about the future of American industry and leadership? Let's dig in. For months, Donald Trump projected confidence from packed arenas and televised appearances, promising that his tariff agenda would lock down the future of American aerospace and shield workers tied to Boeing and its massive supplier network. From the Midwest to the Southeast, he repeated the message that global competition would no longer undercut jobs in states where aircraft manufacturing anchors entire communities. Canada was often named as a past beneficiary of trade rules that, in his view, tilted the field away from American labor, and he assured supporters that his administration had drawn a firm boundary that placed domestic workers first. The promise carried weight because it spoke directly to families whose livelihoods rise and fall with aircraft orders, long production cycles, and the steady hum of factory lines that define local economies. That message hardened into policy in 2024 when the White House rolled out sweeping tariffs on imported aircraft components. The measures were described as a protective wall that would preserve existing jobs, stabilize wages, and encourage companies to deepen their roots inside the United States. Officials argued that domestic production would expand, supply chains would shorten, and American factories would gain leverage in a volatile global market. On shop floors and in union halls, those claims offered reassurance that leadership in Washington understood the pressure workers faced, because a single shift in corporate strategy could determine whether a town thrives or struggles. Boeing's health mattered not only to executives and investors, but to thousands of households whose financial security depended on long-term contracts and predictable demand. That sense of certainty fractured when news broke from Ottawa earlier today. Canada announced that its aerospace sector had secured a series of supply and service agreements once viewed as beyond reach. Backed by public investment and carefully aligned international partnerships, Canadian firms landed responsibilities covering fuselage assembly, avionics integration, and maintenance programs valued in the billions. These agreements are expected to anchor major work programs in Quebec and Ontario, providing stability and growth for years ahead. According to sources familiar with the negotiations, the work will not be centered in Seattle or St. Louis, where expansion had long been anticipated, but will instead strengthen Canada's manufacturing base. From Boeing's perspective, the choice reflected financial logic, offering a way to manage costs, avoid tariff exposure, and secure dependable production outside the United States. Inside Washington, the response unfolded with speed and intensity. An industry long treated as a symbol of American industrial strength appeared to be redirecting core activity toward a neighboring country, and the political shock was immediate. Donald Trump voiced his anger publicly, describing the development as a betrayal of American workers and signaling that retaliation remained on the table. The language underscored how deeply the issue cut into the administration's narrative. Analysts following the situation noted that this move goes beyond a routine corporate adjustment, instead marking a turning point that could alter the trajectory of the aerospace sector. High-value contracts often carry more than immediate revenue because they bring knowledge transfer, sustained investment, and specialized employment that can shape regional power for decades. The timing could not be more sensitive as the 2025 election cycle accelerates and scrutiny intensifies. Trump's campaign leaned heavily on pledges to defend American industry and reverse years of manufacturing losses, yet the headlines now challenge that storyline. Only days ago, a rally speech in Michigan framed America's industrial destiny as secure from foreign influence, a claim that collided with images of Canadian leaders celebrating their aerospace gains. In Montreal, Canada's Prime Minister stood alongside engineers and technicians, presenting the projects as proof that the country can compete at a global level. Those scenes spread rapidly online, fueling national pride north of the border, while deepening unease among American workers who fear the implications for their own futures. In regions still carrying the scars of factory closures, Boeing's decision reopened old wounds. Economists caution that thousands of American jobs could gradually migrate north as Canada locks in long-term agreements that attract capital and innovation. Labor unions reacted with sharp criticism, arguing that American workers built the foundation of this industry and now face the consequences of policies intended to protect them. Many analysts point to unintended effects, suggesting that tariffs designed to safeguard employment have instead introduced uncertainty. Seeking predictable costs and stable planning, Boeing found Canada willing to offer favorable conditions without the trade barriers that complicate operations within the United States. The political fallout widened as Democrats moved quickly to frame the episode as evidence that a narrow trade strategy carries serious risks. They argued that modern supply chains depend on international cooperation and flexibility, not rigid barriers that push companies to seek alternatives. Within Republican ranks, concern surfaced among lawmakers representing districts where aerospace jobs sustain local economies. They worry that continued shifts abroad could weaken voter confidence in states where manufacturing remains central to economic survival. The fear is that if Boeing loses ground or continues relocating work, support in key battleground regions could erode. Beyond North America, competitors are watching closely. Airbus and major Asian manufacturers see potential openings to expand their footprint if Boeing restructures operations to navigate trade pressures. Contracts once assumed secure may come back into play as rivals explore partnerships and opportunities that previously seemed closed. For American workers, the anxiety feels personal and immediate because a move to Canada today could encourage similar decisions tomorrow. Corporations across industries may conclude that profit margins and supply chain stability are better protected elsewhere if trade policies remain unpredictable. That possibility places the United States in a precarious position and raises questions about its ability to sustain dominance in an industry central to national identity. The impact on Trump's personal image has become impossible to overlook, especially because his political identity has been built around the promise of strengthening domestic industry under the banner of Made in America. That slogan carried emotional weight for workers who believed trade barriers would protect their jobs from global competition. Yet the current moment tells a more complicated story. One of the most iconic companies in American history is now directing major investment beyond US borders, and the contrast has created visible tension. While the administration continues to apply trade pressure against China and Europe, Canada, a long-standing ally, has emerged as the primary beneficiary of the dispute. Analysts argue that this shift cuts directly into the core of Trump's message.